Today, I want to talk to you guys about two pieces of ghost hunters evidence that I actually don't think are paranormal at all. A disclaimer here is that I'm a huge fan of ghost hunters and taps and that whole original team. This is not a video talking about if they faked it or not. I'm just actually going to go through this assuming that they thought it was paranormal at the time and that since then the eyes of the nation have watched it and have figured that it's actually something else. It's actually quite obvious what this is that you kind of don't think about until you watch the episode, but it's definitely not a spirit. So we're going to watch this one and then I'm going to get into another piece of evidence, but without any further ado, let's get into it. This first clip comes from Season 3, Episode 13, where the team investigates a house just outside of Seattle. The woman who lives in the house had recently lost her sister, and they believe that she may be the cause for the recent activity in the house. Some of the things they experienced include seeing dark masses in the bedroom, hearing people talking through the vents, and seeing a figure both in the upstairs and downstairs living room. This is where the mistaken piece of evidence comes from. I'd like to point out that the team actually gets a pretty convincing EVP in this episode. The EVP appears to be saying Chesney. Which is the last name of the woman who had passed away. The piece we're debunking today happens as Steve, holding a camcorder, gets up from the couch. We can see that motion of him getting up and then boom, there she is. What appears to be a womanly figure pop into the frame. It looks like she's coming into the frame on her own, at a rate faster than the camera movement, but I'll talk about this in a moment. She also appears to have solid mass because there's light reflecting off of her. But that was actually my first red flag. It's the same red flag I have when I watch the Eastern State Penitentiary footage from Season 1. To me, a solid object means it must be something solid in the room that is visible to the human eye. So wouldn't Steve have seen this if it were solid in the room at the time? Okay, another thing I want to go through is the motion that happens in this clip, and it's so fast, where it looks like this figure is popping into the frame as a freestanding spirit, person, whatever. So I actually just took, I think it's 5 keyframes, sort of at different stages, and I sort of want to show where this object is in comparison to the fireplace in the background, and also a shadow that seems to be cast. I'm not sure if it's by Steve, by the object itself, or if there's something else in the room that the IR light is hitting and then casting a shadow. So I'm going to start with this one here. This is it's sort of in the early part of the clip, and I went ahead and just did a little drawing here, and actually what I think it is, so the outline in green is the fireplace. The outline in yellow is a shadow that's against the wall, basically. And then the red is circling the actual object that we're going to pick up on. The reason that I circled this part in red is one, because I know what the object is. And also there is this slight lighter shade sort of towards the top, ahead. I've taken these images and I've bumped up the values. I've cranked the brightness, cranked the highlights, and lightened up the shadows a bit so that we can sort of see the information in them. These are not super high quality images. I'm I'm taking screenshots from a super low res video. Somebody bootlegged this episode. So we're doing the best with what we have here. And we can also see that then in that case, the camera's quite tilted because the top of the fireplace is right here. So if we keep going, the fireplace is a little bit higher, it's a little bit less cranked. We can start to see, it looks like 2 sort of round shapes. So again, I just went ahead and outlined them. Again, we can see that fireplace. I think that this yellow part is a shadow at the back. It eventually sort of dissipates. It'll go kind of down and out of frame. And then we have this figure that's starting to show up more. So in this photo, it actually kind of looks like she disappears or she's not quite there. What I think happens is that and we kind of saw this in the first frame that I took, she's in the frame for longer than we think she is. It's just that she's not super identifiable until she pops up later. So it looks like she's popping up really, really fast, but actually what I think is happening is she's so blended into the fireplace that she's not apparent to us until a couple frames later here. Here she is in red starting to show up, and the reason I put her here is because now we're seeing light reflecting off of her. So presumably the IR light, it looks like there's an IR light hitting the fireplace at the back as well, and then this light is hitting her, and again this shadow is starting to sort of go down and away. And then in this clip, this is where we start to actually see her. I think that this is where it starts to become a little bit more apparent. We can kind of see, it's so pixelated, but you definitely can see some like value change in the face. We see the light hitting her. That shadow is just sort of like dissipating. So again, I'll go to the where I highlighted it. That shadow is like going down, sort of changing. The fireplace is now like more behind her, and then she's becoming more apparent until we kind of get her popping up like that. That shadow is way down here. The fireplace, if you notice, is kind of, I'll go to this frame. The fireplace is sort of like higher up now. It's still kind of at an angle. She's at an angle, and then that shadow is way down here. So like why I did this is because I really just wanted to note sort of like the visual deception that happens in this clip where it looks like she's popping up so quickly, but actually like she's kind of popping up at not like a totally dissimilar rate to how the camera is moving. It's just that we don't see her at all times, and just really makes this look creepy. Like it does make it look like a convincing piece of paranormal evidence. But like having all this in mind, I think I should just show you guys what this object is. Like, we'll just go to the place in the episode where you can see, what it is, and then if you sort of rewind this video and sort of watch what I've been talking about, I think you'll start to see the same things that I'm seeing. So this is the part in the episode where you can actually see the object. Did you see it? I'll slow it down for you. There she is. Literally the statue of a woman. It looks like she's holding up the coffee table. Very much matches the figure that we're seeing in this clip. Same shape, similar positioning. It's kind of a no-brainer. This is what it was. But hey, don't take my word for it. What do you think? Do you think that it's the statue, or is there something paranormal going on? If you think it's paranormal, I'd really like to know why. Genuinely, so please leave a comment and let me know what you think. All right. One thing that I think is kind of funny that I didn't realize, I had thought about these two pieces of evidence separately when I thought about making this video, without realizing that they're actually back-to-back episodes. So I don't know if that really means anything. I'm just going to assume that it just happens to be that two of these episodes back-to-back had pieces of evidence that I think just weren't debunked at the time. So this one is also like a shadow, or it looks like an apparition. They think it maybe has some solid mass to it. Spoiler alert, I don't. This one's a little less obvious actually, but I can see what I think it might be. But you guys let me know what you think. Drop in the comments. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you guys think this is paranormal. Just remember, when you're in the comments, try to keep it respectful. This isn't a section for being mad at people for believing in ghosts. Like, that's not what my channel's for. This is for people who are curious about the paranormal and want to have a conversation about it. But anything rude or disrespectful will get deleted. Now, all that being said, though, let's get into it. The team travels to the Presidio, an old military base in San Francisco, California. The claims include cigarette smoke smell, seeing full-body apparitions, particularly one of a woman in the ballroom, and hearing clanking in the kitchen that is no longer acting as a kitchen. The team are able to debunk the cigarette smells and noises in the kitchen, thanks to an ice machine, but are left with an EVP and a puzzling piece of footage that they think is a freestanding apparition, and I think is a shadow. Let's take a look. The first thing to note is that the team catches this on two different cameras, but I can't really tell if they're both production cameras, like cameramen, or if one is a handheld camera. Either way, we get this sort of odd presentation of two different angles, but we don't get one from their stationary IR camera that's left in the room even when they're gone. What we see is a figure coming out of a doorway. Taps believes that it's a solid mass, full-body apparition. They think it looks like a woman. I believe that it's a shadow cast by this person that we are seeing in front of the camera. The reason I think this is because we can see that that figure actually does move at a similar rate to the person in front. And that the only thing that kind of speeds it up is that the camera is moving as we're seeing this apparition. This angle really is what does it for me. Like, you can see it in slow motion. That angle totally does it. Because you can see the person moving at the same pace as the shadow. It's the shadow of the guy. We have to remember there's a camera crew here, right? Like, there's a whole camera crew behind the investigators that we're looking at, who have IR lights, who have regular lights, so it's just entirely possible that that crew is casting shadows that we aren't considering, that they have lights that we aren't considering. So that is kind of what I think is happening in this piece of footage here, that it is this person, because you can see light right on them, and then we can see light at the back, most likely an IR light because it's dark, and that this motion is going at the same rate as that person. I don't know. I know why they think it looks solid, but any of these shadows look solid. I don't know. Yeah, I get it. I get why they are so compelled with this piece. Just based on, like, the movement it's all in sync. And that tells me that it's not paranormal, that we are just looking at a shadow. Again, if you think I'm wrong, if you think this is something paranormal and there's something I'm totally overlooking, let me know in the comments what you think. And that's it for this video. These are the two pieces of evidence that I wanted to cover. Again, really curious to know what you think, and if there's any other pieces of evidence from other ghost hunters videos that you think could be debunked. I want to know about it. I definitely have a couple in mind I'd like to make videos about in the future, but I always like to hear from fellow ghost hunters fans what they think. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Okay, the end.